It's my pleasure today to introduce you Dave Cook, the author of Slaying the Dragon. How many of you guys are in my Slaying the Dragon class, or been there, or come there? We get quite a crowd there, you know, and I really appreciate you guys coming there. I'm really impressed with Dave. It's been 30 plus years since he's been released from prison, and he still takes the time to come back to these types of facilities and to give back a little bit, to share his experience and his strength and his hope with you guys. It impresses me after 30 years, and I only hope that after 30 years of being out of this facility and having 30 years of sobriety, that I can still be giving back the way that he does. I think there's going to be some small groups you guys have signed up for on the list. Make sure that if you signed up on the list, I talked to you about it yesterday, that you can go to the classes. If not, make sure that you're off the list so someone else can fill that space, because I really think it's going to be an informative and a productive group. It's probably going to be way better than my Slaying the Dragon, but I'm going to attend one or two of them myself and see if I can learn something. Without anything else from me, guys, I'm going to give you Dave.
About people having trouble re-entering after being released from prison. And I thought, what's the big deal? I did it, and I did it for, at that time, 25 years. Little background. Those of you who have read this book already know. I didn't write this book to make money. I've already made my money. I give most of these books I give away. I wrote this book because I started speaking in prisons, and people always wanted me to write a newsletter or something to leave behind. So I finally ended up writing a book. That's the second edition. Those of you who are taking the class that Piney is offering, you're probably really increasing your chances of making it on the outside, because there's good information. It's kind of a how-to make it on the outside book. I was released on parole after serving both federal and state time, August 7th of 1980. And I served time, federal time, Morgantown, West Virginia, Terre Haute, Indiana, federal penitentiary, Springfield, Missouri, federal penitentiary, Leavenworth, Kansas, federal penitentiary, Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, federal penitentiary. And after I was done, after the feds were done with me, they gave me the state. The state of Ohio still wanted a chunk of me. So they put me in with the old Mansfield. Some of the older fellows may remember the old Mansfield, the old castle. I had the opportunity to spend some time in there. That was the worst. And then from there, because they finally figured out I couldn't do reformatory time because I had already been a convicted felon and served federal time, they took me from there and they put me in the old Ohio Penitentiary in Columbus, Ohio, which has since been torn down. But in any case, so I was released on parole from the state. I actually had maxed out my federal time, so I didn't have any federal parole. And I thought, what do I do now? Do I go back to doing the same thing and then eventually have to go back and do more time, do life on the installment plan, or do I really want to give an honest effort to try to make it on the outside legitimately? And I thought, what do I have to lose by trying to make it legitimately? Nothing to lose. So I did. But the first time I went to a job interview and they said, no, we can't hire you because you're a felon, I didn't roll over and wet myself and say, oh, it doesn't work, and go back to the other thing. No, I kept pushing. I had to be honest with myself and make sure that I was really putting forth an honest effort to making it legitimate. I was out one day, and this was about a month after being paroled. It was in September, and I had been out for about a month. It was real hot this one day. I had been out canvassing office parks, canvassing industrial parks, looking for just any kind of job, anything at all. And as I mentioned before, I was paroled to Cleveland. I was going down an access road Cleveland Hopkins International Airport. Saw a bunch of little airplanes sitting off by the side. And I thought, I like airplanes. Airplanes are fun, and I was feeling kind of beaten up that day. So I stopped, I pulled in, I hop out of my car, I'm looking at these little airplanes. And there's a guy out in the field mowing the grass on one of those great big tractors. And I'm looking at these little Cessnas, and sure enough, this guy starts mowing a path right toward me. And he gets within about 5 feet of me, shuts off the tractor and hops off, and I figured, here goes, I'm out of here. But instead he goes, hi, how you doing? It wasn't quite what I was expecting. I said, I'm doing fine, how are you? He says, are you a pilot? I said, I wish. He said, well, this is a flight school. You can learn to fly here if you want. I said, well, I have a few limitations. He says, like what? He says, well, like, for one, I have no money. None. He says, well, that's not a problem. There's all kinds of student loans and grants and scholarships that you can get, and the school will help you get them. I said, well, I kind of have some other limitations too. You know, like that neon sign, convicted felon, right? He said, well, like, why don't you just tell me your story? What's going on? He says, come on, I'll buy you a soda. We go over and sit by a hangar, and a couple chairs outside a hangar. He runs in, gets a couple bottles of soda, comes out. He sits down, and this really warm individual, who was probably late 50s, maybe 60 years old, his name is John Kovac. And he says, tell me your story, son. This guy is sitting there, he is just full of sweat, grease, and grass, and I figured, what the heck? So I just told him, I just got out of can. He says, really? I said, county jail or what? I said, oh no, the real McCoy, federal land state, the works, got the full tour. He says, really? What'd you do? Gave him the whole story. Didn't hold anything back, just laid it out. The whole 9 yards. The whole time he's sitting there rubbing his chin. Finally he says, you know, there's nothing you've told me that would prevent you from becoming a pilot. He said, I'm really familiar with the aviation regulations. He said, you can get your pilot's license. I said, really? He says, yeah. He said, they'll help you get it. They'll get you through all the process. Okay, well, I'm kind of interested. He said, what have you been doing since you got out? I said, looking for a job. So did you have any luck? No. He says, you think you can cut grass? I thought, oh, great, that's my destiny, cutting grass. Yeah, I could cut grass. So it's good. Do you think you could, like, wash airplanes? Again, I'm thinking, oh, great. Yeah, this is what I long to do for the rest of my life, is scrubbing airplanes and cutting grass. So yeah, I could scrub airplanes. You think you could? We show you how you could fuel airplanes. Yeah, I could do that too. So it's good. When can you start? I said, what do you mean? I don't want to take your job away from you, dude. I said, no, it's all right. I got other things keeping busy. I said, like what? He said, I own this flight school. I'm the president of the company. That's where I learned how to get a job. That one experience is what taught me. Prior to that, every time I went to an interview, I'd check in and jiving and trying to figure out ways to dance around that question about the felony conviction. But this is the first time I just hit it head on. Held nothing back. So therefore, he had no reason to be suspicious of me. He had no reason to be skeptical of me. And people generally do want to help other people. The reason I'm here today is to share something with you guys. One concept. It's the only there's only one concept I have to share with you, and that is that there is a different path available to you if you want. I have been on both paths. I've been on the path that you have been on, and we know where that leads. Both of us do. But I've also been on another path after I got off of that path. Nationally, the recidivism rate is about 67%. That means 67% of people who get out eventually go back. And those are the people that we hear from. I remember it. When I was in prison, all I heard is that, dude, with a felony conviction, you'll be lucky if you can get a job, say the 7 magic words. You know what those words are? Would you like fries with that, sir? Yeah, you'll be lucky if you get that job. So all I heard was, yeah, I got out. Man, I made 11 billion interviews and nobody would hire me. You know what? That really isn't true. They probably sent out one resume, didn't get a response, and quit. The key to making it is don't quit. There is no difference between you fellas here and a room full of kids who just graduated from college. There is no difference. They all have a mountain in front of them. You just have to decide if you want to climb it or not. And it's a choice. It was a series of choices that brought you in here. It is a series of choices that keeps you out. So after I got out, I went to school. It took 5 months of me going to different social organizations and saying, I'm trying to go to school, I will learn how to fly, can you help me? Some would say no. Some would say, yeah, we can give you $100 toward your first quarter's tuition. Some give $1,000. Some help with living expenses. Here's one thing I can tell you. If you're willing to get out of here and go and visit every social organization out there, you will find the help you need. I don't care what help you need, whether you need anger management, living subsistence, food subsistence, I don't care what you need. The help is out there. There are social organizations out there that will help you. I probably visited 70, 80 different organizations, and then on December 24th, I was getting ready to sit down and have dinner with my mom. And the phone rang. It was exactly 6 o'clock, if I remember looking at the clock. Who's calling at dinner time? And it was Jim Greaves, who was a guy with the Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitation, BVR. Jim Greaves calling and saying, this is after I have visited social organizations every day since September, and now here we are in December. And he said, Dave, congratulations, and Merry Christmas. You're going to school. We got the whole program put together. A little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. The whole program came together, and I went to school. I learned how to fly. And I did it quick. Got my private pilot certificate, my instrument rating, my commercial pilot certificate, my multi-engine rating, and then finally my airline transport pilot certificate. Today I'm type rated in the Learjet 20 and 30 series, the Israeli Westwind, the Gulfstream, and the Cessna Citation. I had a long career as a corporate pilot. Great career. It was a lot of fun. Traveled everywhere. I've been everywhere. In 1995, started hearing a little bit about this new thing called the internet. In 95, nobody heard of the internet. One thing's for sure, my bank never heard of the internet because they didn't want to lend me any money. But I thought this internet is kind of cool. It could become something big. And I met a kid who had just graduated from Ohio Northern University. His name's Kyle. And he was 22 years old, just graduated with a a dual major, computer science and electrical engineering. He thought this internet thing was kind of cool too. So he explained to me how the hierarchy of the internet works. Because I want to know, where's the top of the food chain? And he said, well, the top of the food chain is like AT&T and MCI and WorldCom, these companies that have these huge networks that span the continent, and then they interconnect together to form one really big network that's called the internet. So I said, well, that's what we want to be. We want to be one of those tier 1 networks. So we set off. We started putting together a business plan, started raising some capital. We were able to raise some private investment capital. And we built one of those tier 1 networks. So we were one of the companies, Fiber Network Solutions, that built the infrastructure of the internet in North America. Started in 1995. By 2001, we had hit the Inc. 500 list of America's fastest growing companies. We were the 68th fastest growing company in America. Hit the Inc. 500 list again in 2002, Best in Business, Entrepreneur of the Year finalist, all the accolades. I sold the company in 2003. But I definitely do not go to prisons to lecture people or to tell you what you should do with your life. It's your life. It's not mine. I decide what to do with my life. You decide what to do with yours. Again, I'm here for one reason, to show you that there is another path. Because that recidivism rate is 67% that get out and go back. That means 33% get out and never go back. There are 2.5 million people in prisons and jails in the United States. Statistically, 95% of that population eventually gets released. 33% of that compounding every year is a huge number. There are tens of thousands of guys, just like me, who got out and never went back. So the purpose of me being here isn't to tell you what to do. What you do with your life, it's your life. It's up to you. I am here to provide you with absolute evidence that if you want a different path in life, it is available. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what your background is. I don't care about your heritage. I don't care if your parents and your grandparents were all in prison. I don't care what color you are, what nationality you are. If you want a different path, it's available. I'm going to tell you a little story. Brian went to see his girlfriend, Courtney, and Courtney made some delicious macaroni and cheese and Oscar Mayer wieners for lunch, some delicious lemonade. And as they were sitting there having lunch, Brian noticed that Courtney's dog, Penelope, was laying over in the corner, just kind of quietly whimpering, oh, oh. And every once in a while, oh, letting out a yell. And Brian said, Courtney, what's the matter with Penelope? She looked over, she said, oh, there's a big rusty nail sticking up out of the floor over there, and she's just laying right on it. And Brian says, well, why doesn't she get off and go lay somewhere else? Courtney says, I guess it doesn't hurt enough. You guys are all laying on a rusty nail. If it doesn't hurt enough now, it will. It's probably one of the things that motivated me. My nail hurt. By the time I got out, that nail hurt. I didn't want to get back on it. If you're laying on a rusty nail and it hurts, get off of it. If it doesn't hurt, it will. I hope that if it doesn't hurt and you want to just keep laying on it, I hope that you get off of it while you still have the choice to get off of it. Because if you go out and catch a 15 to life, it isn't your choice anymore. You're going to lay on that rusty nail long after it starts to really hurt. To those of you who have an interest in exploring what it takes to get on another path and what it takes to stay on that path and to make it. I don't care if you've never been employed. I don't care if you dropped out of school in the 8th grade, because I did. My dad died when I was 11. I mentally dropped out of society when I was 11. I definitely mentally dropped out of school in the 7th or 8th grade. I formally withdrew from school in the 10th grade because you had to be 16 to do it in Ohio. So I don't care where you've left off. Wherever it is you've left off, I can show you how to start from that point and accelerate yourself to a point where you can achieve anything you want in life. I have achieved everything that I've set out to achieve in my life. I can think of nothing that I've not achieved that I've wanted to achieve. And my felony convictions are still out there. I never applied for a pardon on the federal level, and I never applied for expungement on the state level. They're still, if you ran a background check on me, pop, they'd be right there. But what I've done is I've diluted them. Every time you do something new, it's what I call your most recent significant event in your life. I went to school. I got good grades. That diluted it. I had a job. I showed up on time and did a good job. That diluted it. Diluting, 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 diluting. In the state of Ohio, you cannot have a real estate license if you're a convicted felon. Did you know that? I have a real estate license. Because I didn't apply for it the day I got out of prison, I applied for it in 1991. I had been out for 11 years. They didn't base the decision on whether to approve or deny me or to waive that requirement or that to waive my conviction. They based it on not what I did, but what I did since then. So if you get out and you start accomplishing little things, just little things, what happens is you start to build up a whole lot of things between where you are now and where you were, and people will always judge you based upon your last act. You're always judged based upon your last act. So when you get out of prison, your last act is you just got out of prison. When I got out, I didn't need a job, I needed a break. John Kovac gave me a break. And from there, it went up from there. If you get out and you're looking through the paper for a job, you're wasting your time. Because every time a job is published in the paper, you have 20,000 competitors that are looking at that job too. I know the economy is awful, but look, I was released right after Jimmy Carter finished office. You want to talk about an awful economy? Look at some history there. Mortgage interest rates were 21%. Runaway inflation. The economy was in shambles. So the economy's bad, that's not a good excuse. Don't look online for jobs. Once it's advertised, you got a bunch of competitors. Go find a job that nobody else wants. That is what Josh Biondi did. He went and found a job that nobody else wants because guess what? Nobody else wanted it, so nobody else was competing for it. That job I got cutting grass, who was cutting the grass before I took the job? The president of the company. He sure didn't want to be doing it, but he couldn't find anybody else to do it because it's a job that nobody else wanted. But that's the job that gave me that first layer between released from prison, gainfully employed. That first layer. Had to swallow a lot of pride. All my friends would drive up and down that access road, and they'd be hanging out in the car, making cat calls. Oh, look at Coco, ha ha, nice coveralls. And all those people that were mocking me while I was out there cutting grass, scrubbing airplanes, washing hangar floors. All those people, you know what? Here's what's interesting. Here we are 30 years later. If I look over my shoulder back at them, they're right where I left them. They're right back where I left them 30 years ago, and they're still doing the same thing. Nothing's changed. So my purpose of being here, guys, is not to lecture. I don't judge you. If you do not feel that now is the time for you to look at a different path, and you want to get out and go back to doing the same thing, I absolutely respect that. I have no problem with that. I don't judge it. It's your choice. I choose that I will not participate in it. I probably will not take your call saying, Dave, which street corner should I stand on to sell this dope? I won't help you with that. But I do take calls from people who get out and are trying to do the struggle. And I answer letters from people who are doing the struggle. Because I will tell you this, if you want to get out and take a different path, it is not easy. It is hard. It's hard. Life is hard. Just because it's hard doesn't mean it has to be a painful drudgery. It can be fun. It can be interesting. You can reflect upon it. Because I'll tell you something. I've arrived at some really good destinations in my life, but those rewards pale in comparison to the rewards that I have received from the journey toward the destination. The struggles, the dragons I have slain, the challenges that I have conquered. Those experiences, the journey is the most delicious part, not the destination. So I'm not here to tell you that it's easy. It isn't. It's hard. It's hard. If you want to take a different path, it's hard. I will definitely tell you this. The easy way out leads to a hard life. And I know that because I've met so many people in prison when I was in and still today when I'm out. The easy way out leads to a very hard life. You're always looking over your shoulder. That's tough. That's tough. The hard way out leads to a very easy life. Who decides if you get promoted if you're working for me? If you work for me, who decides if you get promoted? No, I don't. You do. You decide if you get promoted. You decide if you get a raise. I've been an employer of a fairly large corporation. Let me tell you something. Can I pick on you a little bit here? You have your permission? Okay. Can I pick on this whole table here a little bit? Okay. I hire you, okay? I put stuff on your plate, and you always do a good job. You always get it done. It never comes back to me. It's always done correctly. I don't have to go back and redo it. Do I like you or not? I like you. Yes, I like you. I sure do. Mm-hmm. Why? Because you've just made my life easier. I'm not up till midnight redoing the job that you didn't do because you do it when I give it to you. So I like you because I'm an employer. I like people who make my life easier. Now, I got the rest of these guys at this table. I like these guys. They do an okay job, but sometimes I give them stuff and it comes back. Sometimes I give them stuff that's not done correctly, so I have to go back in and kind of tweak it up a little bit. But I got you, and every time I give you something, it gets done. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to promote you to their manager. You are now their manager, so now I give you all the work, you divide it up amongst them, and you're the firewall between them and me. If they don't get it done, I don't want to hear about it. And I know you're the kind of person that you're going to make sure I don't. Because if they don't get it done, either you're going to do it or you're going to put your boot wherever it needs to go to make sure that they do it. That's a secret to getting a raise or promotion. Make your boss's job easier. And actually make your boss's job easier. Make their life easier. You do that, so now you're managing these guys, right? Nothing comes back. Do I like you or not? No. I love you now. Yeah. Because you've made my life a lot easier. I mean, look at what you've taken off my plate. You know how I'm going to make sure that you stay? I'm going to pay you more than anybody else would ever consider paying you. Oh, it's slapping on the golden handcuffs. I'm going to make sure that you can never leave because nobody will ever pay you more than I will pay you. Because that's worth it to me. The money is the easy part, man. It's finding somebody who will make my life easier. That's the hard part. I've probably gone beyond what I usually go in this first little assembly, but I know that Ms. Davison and I think Tiny have sign-up sheets. There's a number of different topics that I'm going to cover this week, starting this afternoon and this evening. Again, if you say, not for me, I understand it, I respect it, I shake hands with you, and I wish you well. If you would like to attend some of these smaller seminars, get signed up for them and attend them. I'm going to take the pit. Fellas, thank you for your time. And those of you who are signed up or want to sign up, talk to Tiny or to Ms. Davison and get signed up for the smaller seminars. Thanks, fellas.
Thank you.